All right, Ruchika Sikri, thank you so much for joining us at the Global Mindfulness Summit. It's really an honor to have you.
It's an honor to be here with you, Soren. Such a big fan of Wisdom 2.0 for years, I think since you started, and it's great to be here and having this conversation with you.
Wonderful. Well, I want to talk about your own interest in mindfulness, your interest in practice in mindfulness. I want to talk a little bit about your work at Google, and I also want to talk about kind of well-being in an age of COVID and how so many people are working from home and managing that. And we can go into any other areas of topic that we want to explore, but let's kind of first start with you, if that's okay. You were born and from India, and yet you said your interest in mindfulness, yoga, and meditation actually grew more in the United States than in India. Can you say a little bit more about how that interest kind of came into your life?
Yeah, it's so ironic, right? Like I feel a lot of my friends in the mindfulness and meditation, my circle, a lot of people go to India to gain this knowledge, the wisdom, the practice. Soren, I grew up in an Indian Hindu family. We did a lot of rituals in our house, celebrated. We had a temple. I still have a temple in my house. And but I didn't quite understand the meaning of why we do the rituals the way we did, and I got introduced to yoga and meditation, believe me or not, when I joined Google about 14 years ago. Before that, I was practicing yoga at home, just watching some TV shows that were teaching yoga, and I would just follow that. But my practice on meditation actually began at Google. I realized I was like thousands of miles away from my family, settling down, being a new mother, joined this high-paced company, a lot of great things to learn, and drinking through a fire hose, trying to stay up and going with all of the demands of the work and being a new mom and being alone without a lot of friends in the area, and also my family not being around. So that led to a lot of burnout for me. In the first 6 months, I felt a lot of heart palpitation and my well-being was not good. I was working a very, very long hours. And I realized that there was a group of people within my building. Some of you know Meng and a few other great Googlers who have been practicing meditation in a conference room. So I saw a poster on a conference room door that we meditate here on every Thursday at 2 p.m. and anyone is welcome to join. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go and see if this helps, because I had just visited a doctor to just check in on my health and my just a primary care physician. And they said, well, find ways to conscientiously relax your body and mind. And I tell them, like, I go for a walk, I exercise, and I do yoga. And they recommended that, I try meditation. So I went in there, and honestly, that was the most excruciating 20 minutes of my life, just sitting there in silence and not being able to do anything with the thoughts and the feelings and the pain and the sensations, all of that were coming up. So since then, but I kind of just stuck to it. They had the rhythm. I made some good friends in the community, and that accountability, that support helped a lot. Meng, at that time, we started building Search Inside Yourself program at Google. And I had great interest in meeting the speakers and the authors who would come and the teachers who would come at Google. And the interest started getting deeper and deeper. So I've been practicing at Google for a long time. And then just by the virtue of career development, career transition, Google is a great place. You can really follow your heart to do the things that you want to do. I had the opportunity to establish mindfulness learning programs at Google, along with some of my amazing colleagues who preceded this work from me. And then, since last 6 years, have been really involved in deepening my practice and enabling others to see the power in these practices. Not as if like you're going to become a superhuman. I think just to stay in the present moment and take more ownership of your own life and more ownership of your responsibilities that we owe to ourselves and to the communities we live in, and uplift everyone along with that. So I've had just very integrated practice as a parent, as a co-worker, as a manager, And I've really enjoyed the journey so far.
That's great. That's great. And then how do you describe, so you had a doctor kind of suggest, a physician to suggest, and more doctors are suggesting it. I'm curious, when you discover somebody, whether it's at work or somebody else, and they're interested in maybe starting, what do you tell them it is? Because sitting silently, like you said, by yourself for 20 minutes is an excruciating thing to do. Being without your phone for 20 minutes even can be an excruciating thing to do. But just to be with your own mind and to not have external stimuli coming in is a very difficult thing to do. So I'm curious, what do you say to people? How do you describe it in a way if somebody asks you, oh, I'm interested in that, what is it? How do you find yourself describing it?
Yeah, I think I describe it the way I have benefited from it, just to, be more mindful and intentional about the choices I want to make in my life. And typically, being surrounded by technology, which is great. And I mean, this is amazing. We could do this interview online today in this time of COVID, right? We don't need to be in person. It has, revolutionized our life. And at the same time, there is a lot of you know, autopilot that we're living in an autopilot mode. We start our day and the day happens. We don't know what happens during the day, and we feel we're very tired by the end of the day. So I tell them, like, to make conscious choice about your well-being, your life, your career, your performance, your productivity, whatever may be driving you in the life. You have to really dip into your intrinsic motivation. If you're a new parent, how do you parent and work and caregive, especially in these times? So I describe it in a way that that it's a very integrated practice. We describe this in our programs as, like, you could practice in the gym, you could sit on a cushion and do your daily meditation, which is the hard part initially until you start liking it, and then you can't live without it. Like me, I have to have my practice every morning. And then there is in the moment practices as well. When you're having a conversation with a partner, with a manager, with a colleague, when you're doing brainstorming, like, how are you creating space for everyone to have a word in? How are we managing, crucial conversations? So there's just such a practical aspect of it. And thankfully, I don't need to describe and sell this a lot at Google, to be honest, Soren. People are very interested in it, thanks to the wave you have created externally, and many other pioneers who've done research and have written great books and articles. People are seeing the value in it, and we typically have a long wait list of people wanting to get into the program. And anytime we introduce anything new to Googlers, they come running for it. They really see the value in it. So it's a very established way of life. We've knitted it into the fabric of our culture. And I'm just so proud and grateful that people are taking part in these activities to find sanity in our life every day.
Wonderful. And can you say a little bit more about that role that you're currently playing in Google, and why that role exists there, and the possibility of that role existing at every company, every major company, right? Like, what's the importance of somebody who's taking care of who's focused on taking care of the well-being and the mindfulness of I don't know how many thousands of employees Google has now, but it's a large number of people. And so I'm curious about what your experience is in that current role, and your thoughts on are also just the importance of that role in general at a company.
Yeah, it's 120,000 plus people.
120,000, okay.
Yeah, scaling has been really top of mind for me and for our team as well. My role at Google, I'm the Wellbeing Learning Program Strategy Lead. I used to manage a lot of different type of learning in wellbeing space, but now I'm very focused on mindfulness. And we do that to help Googlers develop emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness of who you are, what are your parameters, what are your boundaries, how do you detach, mindfully, intentionally after work, so that you can take care of other business in life as well. And I'm part of the big agenda of well-being at Google. It is a very important thing. We value our leadership values at Google, Every year we have a Google Guys survey. We ask our employees, how are you doing with your well-being? Are you able to manage your work-related stress and have a well life? Are you able to detach after work hours? And then we ask, like, what tools are helpful for you as you do that? When we get this feedback, and in this time of change, this rapid, enormous change that is seldom in our control or even influence, we need to just be mindful that if we are not providing these resources to employees, they're not going to bring their best self to work,
Yeah.
right? It shows up as the carer's leave that we get at Google, in time of COVID, because we have to provide teaching our kids and showing up for meetings and delivering on our OKRs every quarter, right? So well-being is like a cross-functional agenda at Google. We have our real estate and workplace benefits team that takes care of a lot of like food-related well-being, fitness-related well-being. We have our benefits team providing us great sleep programs and many other opportunities, helping us build resilience. And then we have our department that focuses on well-being through mindfulness. So we introduced the concept of mindfulness backed by neuroscience to our employees around Google through Search Inside Yourself program and many other avenues, fundamentals of mindfulness. And then we also have a program called GPause, which is community-driven program where people can come together and practice, either host a retreat on a weekly basis, or do a daily guided meditation, or offer an app-based meditation where you can practice on your own. I think this role that I have, I'm very grateful, and I know the privilege I have to hold this whole role at Google. It's not a very common thing in the industry yet, but I'm seeing more of it happen. As you have interviewed some great leaders in the industry who are holding this role in the company, I think we just need to pay attention to what's important. If employee well-being is important, we got to invest in resources and budgets to allow for that to emerge. We also want to create space not just for a central role to exist like this, but also for people who are passionate to bring it to others. And I will share an example. At Google, we have 400 Googlers who are either engineers, they're working in finance department, doing several jobs, but they take 1%, 5%, 20% of their time, and they dedicate to advancing mindfulness in workplace by leading a wisdom talk with an external speaker, or hosting a daily guided meditation practice, or through hosting retreats and doing several, when the offices were open. We did, like, one of our volunteers organized a 1 week of mindfulness in Dublin office, for example. And more than like 1,000 people attended several events within a week. So just how do we enable and activate the community that exists within an organization? It's a powerhouse that we need to pay attention to and channel their energy into bringing the goodness into the culture as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I know that you have mentioned it briefly, but I'd love you to say more. I think COVID has created all new challenges for us. Many people I know are not accustomed to working from home, and many people are also not accustomed to having, I think you have 3 children, is that right?
2 kids.
Two kids. Not many people are also not accustomed to working with several kids at home. They're used to the kids being in school, they're used to being in office where there's structures. We're also in an economy that's very, in flux. And so I'm wondering, kind of, what have you noticed about the stress or the well-being of people in this particular time? And do you have any thoughts on just kind of how to manage what is becoming kind of a home work retreat, I guess, if you will, a long home work retreat, and something that most of us maybe not have really thought about or prepared for. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that, or what have you noticed both in yourself or in the community that you support as this is unfolded?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing for me is to take perspective every morning. Life is not the same as it was in 2019 or before. Everything has just kind of turned on its head around us, right? Like the way we work, the way we manage our family, the way we do schooling for children, the way we connect. in my mind and the way I'm seeing it unfold, it's different for different people. We know that, right? There are people who are living with families trying to do caregiving, teaching, cook,
Yeah.
multiple hats we're wearing. So we need to pay attention to what needs they have and how do we allow for flexible work hours, for example, or give some extra time off to people who really need it. If they have small children, they need that. And that caregiving is not just limited to children. Some folks live with their elderly parents or seniors or special needs family members. So we just need to pay attention to how do we meet them with empathy and care as much as possible in an organization. There are people who are living alone. There are, people relocate for jobs, to go to college, to work at different places. They're very lonely. They cannot travel to go back and be with their family members. So the social isolation is leading to a lot of mental health challenges for folks around the world. And then third, I see is like people who are first responders, people who are working in the hospitals or essential workers who have to go to enable us to get groceries in our home so we can cook food. So I think, just having that perspective of our own life, like, where am I and what do I need and how life has just completely shifted around me. And then that self-awareness leading to knowing what are the resources available to me in this moment. Is there a family member that I can lean on, a friend I can lean on? Is my workplace providing me some benefits? I really hope sincerely that all workplaces, if affordable, are giving their employees some benefit of extra time off or flexible work hours at the very least. Um, but then Google, we have provided more mental health support to our employees, just, one-on-one sessions with psychologists, therapists. A lot of community work is happening. I want to share this example with you where there are some Googlers who are reading stories to children of other Googlers. Like, so we have like rotation responsibilities. Like we can pick up a book from our child's bookshelf and just open up Google Meet.
Google Meet. Yeah.
Story, I was going to say Zoom. We use Google Meet and Google. um, and then just read a storybook. So that's how, parents are forming their own communities. And a lot of people are like, offering exercise classes. So if someone is a Zumba instructor, they can offer a Zumba class to others. So it's like that spirit of community is quite a thing to witness in this time.
Yeah.
From past perspective, we're offering a lot of mindfulness resources to people. Every month we have an amazing speaker. I'm looking forward to hosting you in the next couple of
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had Sharon Salzberg, Tammy Simon, amazing speakers who've taken, time to come and talk to Googlers, lead meditations for them, and share the perspective that we've all kind of gained and are gaining in our own paths. Daily 8 to 10 meditations around the world are happening. People can join. I just led one meditation today. There were 20 people online meditating with me. Once a week, one of our amazing volunteers is hosting a retreat. 3 or 4 of us come together and do compassion practice, grounding practice, body scan practice to really just take this, like, this frenziness that stress that's building up to kind of just mellow it down a little bit. So, I think it's imperative right
Yeah.
now.
It
Really,
sounds like too, like there's things that a company can do from above. We're going to hire this person or we're going to fund these programs. And then there's the stuff that can come from the bottom, which is we're going to create a platform for all of you to support each other in creative ways. And I think both have their place, right? It's nice when the structure says we're supporting you in all these ways. And it's nice when there's also this groundswell of like, what are you passionate about? How do we help solve this together? If you're passionate about Zumba, like let's give you a platform to be able to share that with others, and it gives you meaning. And I think that's really a beautiful balance. And I think that feeling of community is something that we sometimes don't always give as much attention to, particularly in the mindfulness community, where it can feel like a solo practice, and it can be, and it often is. And yet there's that sense of community that happens, whether that community is with our family or that community is with our company, or that community is just with, like, we're doing this global mindfulness summit, just for free and open, and just I don't know how many nations of countries of people just coming in, like, and there's that community, right? There's like so many different levels of community, And I feel like that to me is such an interesting way of trying to navigate into the world. Like, oh, here I am, but I'm also part of this much bigger network, whether it's Google is at a company or a human being in this vast world of other human beings. So it's really nice to hear that container can be created such that gifts can be given, and then there's that community kind of feeling. And I think companies that do that are so much more successful, right? The companies that know how to create community. And I hope we can do that for our world, Ruchika, like we can do it both internally and externally.
So yeah, again, thanks for just summarizing all of that. It's so great to hear you back as you're describing what I was sharing about what we're doing internally. And I also don't want to like make it sound it's all like rainbows and unicorn, like we're figuring all of it out. It is a very challenging time, and you got to call it the way it is. Like some days I have very difficult time. Like we just moved into a new home, and that was challenging. Just to kind of figure out how to get the movers in, and like people are just facing very different types of complexity in this moment also. And thanks to you, Soren, like I feel like we've been big subscribers at Google of Wisdom 2.0 since its inception, and I know you've had very amazing leaders from Google join the platform to share their views and advance this agenda. And I'm totally with you on it that this is a fundamental requirement of life, this awareness that these practices can create. It's not like a thing where you have to go on a hill and then just live in a monastery and do meditation all your life. I feel just like we brush our teeth every day and take a bath or exercise and walk, meditation is becoming an equally important component.
Yeah.
We've secularized it. It's so much that there is no stigma attached to it. In fact, when we created G-Pause program at Google, it was to really take the stigma away, to take the taboo away, that there is no moving part of it. It's like mental floss every day. You got to do that every day. And even right before our interview, I had a very busy morning. My kid had first day of school today. I was a little nervous on like, and he's kindergartner, right? Like I'm like, okay, he's a how can you fail him as a parent for a kindergartner, right? But I'm like, if I don't get the first day right, it's just going to be downhill. I felt so much pressure, and after lunch, I came down to just decompress, and then I just sat for 10 minutes, and I'm a completely different person as compared to what you would have gotten of me if I walked in with all of that stress. So yeah.
And that's, I think, the beautiful thing is about creating mindfulness communities within work is that traditionally work is often, inevitably, most work is going to be somewhat stressful, but can it be balanced and not so stressful that when you go home, you're more likely to yell at your kid, you're more likely to get frustrated with your partner, you're more likely to not sleep well at night, you're more likely to just be upset about different things. And so can we transform work so that the challenges are still there, but we can relate to the challenges differently, so that when we come home and we see that child, we're like, hey, child, who are you? Like we're kind of really present with that moment too, because work, as challenging as it was, it didn't bombard us with this heavy weight that then we carry home and we have to go through, take all kinds of medications, who knows what, to kind of like calm down. And so I love that there's this movement that I feel like you're very, very much a part of. Scott Shute at LinkedIn is very much a part of. Many others are very much a part of, which is just like, maybe there's a win-win. It's like we can be actually really engaged and successful within the work domain in a way that actually supports us also being really open and available outside of that domain. And so I'm super excited for that. And I'm partly super excited for that because I have kids too. And the work that I envision them in is meaningful and purposeful and challenging. And, I want them to be able to like walk home or go home and taste their food and see a tree and like watch the sunset, So all the stuff that we're building together, I feel like that excites me. It excites me that it doesn't have to be a detrimental thing. It actually can be a world positive thing personally and for the family. And so I feel like there's a lot of work still to do, but just a deep bow to what you've done so far and to kind of navigating that terrain. both in your own life and then also in the company's life and beyond, because I know that you work on many fronts.
Yeah, thank you, Soren. I think, it's very meaning making. I feel I'm more connected every day with my kids, with my colleagues. I can be who I am and be very compassionate and caring and empathetic. I think the world just needs that more right now. And honestly, I think what you were referring to, like, if I'm reading that accurately, the time of COVID, this is part of my perspective taking every morning. Like, oh my gosh, COVID, people are dying. It hurts my heart to see, the numbers rise of people who are getting ill or dying through this disease. And at the same time, I'm like reframing, like, okay, well, what happened? Like, why did this planet have to, press this reboot button and stop all of us? And why? Because, I really feel, I think it was out of our control to stop the damage that was happening in this world with the global warming and, all kinds of challenges that we have created. I have a lot of family and friends in India, and India has a very high rate of pollution. Like every time I would go there, it would break my heart to just like not wear a mask. We had N95 masks when we would go and visit New Delhi to visit our family. And but people are like seeing mountains from their home that they had never seen in India, right? Like the air has cleared up because there's no traffic, and because of the lockdown and all of that stuff. And I'm seeing, people are taking more time to introspect, like why is this happening, and I think it's an opportunity. If we haven't looked into this direction, we all have that time. We all have that moment of being with our family and friends, whoever we have access to be more present.
Yeah.
Look within ourselves to see, how is aggression, active or passive, showing up in the words we say, the way we conduct our work, and how can we transform that into more love and care and connection with each other. So I reframe every day, and that gives me strength to find the positive even in the strange times that we're living in, with all of the hopes and prayers that we get through this, and the suffering.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I know for me, somebody had said the other day, I will never, what does it say? I'll never take for granted being able to shake somebody's hand or hug someone ever again. Like I'll never take that for granted. Like hopefully there'll be a moment where that becomes possible. But sometimes when things are taken away, the appreciation for them, right, just so grows. And I'm with you. I hope our planet can get the lessons that we need so that we upgrade, if you will, or think really mindfully about what kind of world do we want to create, and both internally but also ecologically. What is that world we want to create, and how do we think through things so that it's a truly livable world? And I do think that there's an opportunity now to look at that, right? And hopefully there'll be a vaccine soon, and hopefully we'll be able to hug and handshake and do all those things together. But also then really look at what are the lessons and how do we create a sustainable world. I feel like I'm right with you, and that's a really important. It would be sad to lose that questioning as we all go back to traditional lives. So thank you for giving voice to that. Anything else, Ruchika, that you would want to say as we come to a close?
Just immense gratitude to you and your team who makes this possible. It was once a year. Now you do it several times a year. And I think we need these reminders over and over again. I'm looking forward to attending the Global Mindfulness Summit, and many of us from Google will be joining that team. We've been advertising and just really opening it up to beyond our volunteer community. We typically come with our volunteer community, but I think everyone needs to hear what the speakers have to share. I'm eager to hear that too. So thank you, Soren, for making this possible.
Thank you for taking the time. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Take care.